When the likes of British royal dynasties are thought of, many school curriculums teach them we know quite a lot about the Tudors with Henry VIII, or the Normans with William I and Ballad Hastings, or perhaps the modern Windsors with Queen Elizabeth II, foundation of the Commonwealth, King Charles III. However, I think there's always one dynasty in my mind that is often left out, and really never has served its justice. That is the Plantagenet Dynasty, started in 1154 with Henry II, all the way up 1485 with the fall of Richard III, Battle of Bosworth. I'll be taking you on an 8-part series over 331 years of history, looking at Henry II, Richard I, John, Henry III, Edward I, Edward II, Edward III, Edward II, Henry IV, Henry V, Henry VI, Edward IV, Edward V, Richard III. 14 monarchs to go through, from civil war and chaos to another civil war, battles, 100-year war, and lots of internal affairs, so to say the same. This is the Plantagenet Dynasty. England's root as a global power was cemented by these people. An Angevin empire, a kingdom, and warfare, to the collapse nearly of defeat. This is the Plantagenets, a warrior dynasty. Please enjoy the series. Although it appears I have already concluded on the 100 Years' War and of Henry VI, I thought best make an entire video dedicated to this monarch for episode 6 in the Plantagenet series. This is Henry VI, a man and king of paranoid and defeat. Source the link down in the description. Let's begin. As previously mentioned in episode 5, which you'll be able to see for a link before the end of the video, Henry V saw the defeat of the 100 Years' War by the English in 1453, having been on the throne since 1422. At the age of just 8 months old, the youngest monarch to ascend the throne in English and indeed British history since 1066, since the houses began. Not only that, actually, ironically, despite his paranoid and defeat, he was also the only king ever in English history to also be crowned the King of France, although due to the sudden death of a French grandfather in the royal family, this was very short-lived, along with the defeat, of course, in the 100 Years' War. This, of course, being installed by his father, Henry V. So, very briefly, there was indeed a king of England and France, but it wouldn't last long at all and was very much in de jure. In de facto, England, of course, lost the 100 Years' War and it meant nothing to anything that Henry V had agreed upon. Henry VI found himself, unlike his father, a man of war, power and glory. Henry VI was someone who never really liked being king. He didn't really like the job on at all, to be honest with you. And modern historians simply say if it probably was in this day and age, probably would just abdicated for his son or brother or someone else to take on the throne. As a result of this un-Francophobia experienced by Henry V and other English monarchs, particularly during the 100 Years' War, Henry VI was actually someone who wanted peace. He wanted a bit of, neutrality between England and France. As a result, he became very unpopular with many nobles and people at court in England. Nevertheless, he was still monarch. So what he said still goes. It's still a few centuries on until we get to the English Civil War, which is an entire story of its own. And of course, he did also marry on the 23rd of April 1445 at Titchfield Abbey in Hampshire, Margaret of Anjou. And one interesting thing about Henry VI you should also know during his reign was the man was, by modern historians' classification, particularly after 1453, when Gascony, not to mention that of course links Henry II, the man who started the Plantagenet Dynasty, or the 14 monarchs of it apart, Gascony fell to France. Of course, defeat 100 Years' War, France took over all English territories on the continent minus Calais, and some limited regency rule over Brittany. And as a result of losing Gascony and the continual fact he didn't want to be king, Henry VI started to experience the rest of his reign up until 1461 a series of sort of mass panic attacks and very big bouts of worrying and just general anxiety. He would often go into panics. He might start screaming, very much many moments of his hand over his head, and he couldn't quite cope with the pressure physically doing the panic attacks and the hand over the head. He really didn't like being monarch, and he simply saw the pressure as too much, and his wife Margaret couldn't do much about it. And he even found it quite hard to acknowledge that his own son was indeed born. As a result, also during Henry VI's reign, to add on to the chaos, as of course you already know, and I won't go into too much detail in this video, leave it till next video, the War of the Roses. So I will discuss, however, is one of the battles during the War of the Roses, the first one that kicked it off actually, 22nd of May 1455 in Hertfordshire, in St Albans, where the first battle of St Albans, funny enough named, occurred 22nd of May 1455, 33 years into Henry VI's reign, man, a 39-year reign, which, however, was a Yorkist victory quite decisively and saw 160 killed, many of which were Lancastrians, led by Henry VI, obviously, at a time where kings still rode their men into battle, despite, of course, they could be killed, and then, oh, it's very easy to go into the throne then, isn't it? It took a while for the English monarchs to stop doing that. In fact, until George II in the 18th century to be the last monarch to actually lead a man into battle. And the Duke of Somerset, who was killed, Duke of Somerset was killed, not the one under the Tudors, another Duke of Somerset. And the Yorkists were, of course, led by the Duke of York, funny enough, and the Earl of Salisbury. And it was a victory for them. In terms of actually more domestic policies, Henry VI was actually a man who promoted religion and learning. He wanted great education. Henry VI supported schooling and education. He wanted a well-taught population. Nevertheless, as we come to the end of his reign, in 1461, during the War of the Roses, he was quickly imprisoned by Edward IV, soon to be King of England, as a Yorkist. And whilst being a prisoner in his own country, being fear of being keep on being inaugurated as king every time, the Lancastrians and Yorkists one up to each other on each side. He was brutally beaten and bludgeoned to death in the Tower of London at the age of 49 in 1471 by a man known as Richard, who would later be Richard III, adding to both the paranoid defeat and, quite frankly, sadness of Henry VI's reign, but also paving the way for the future brutality of one of the most evil kings in British history, if not the most evil king, Richard III. But all this is to come later in the Plantagenet series. So make sure you do subscribe and like to the comment channel down below. Right now you'll be seeing on screen the entire Plantagenet series playlist and all the other playlists on the channel as videos regarding history, which I very much recommend you do watch. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next YouTube video. Goodbye.